Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Wednesday, May 14th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The high in Riverside today will reach a comfortable 71.6 degrees, with the low dipping to 54.3 tonight. It sounds like perfect weather to enjoy the outdoors if you can. Coming up on Alex's News, we will take a closer look at the ongoing discussion surrounding the Gaza hospital strike, specifically examining why definitive proof for various claims remains elusive. Then, we will shift our focus to California, exploring the unexpected developments and reasons that have led the state's budget to slip back into a deficit. We will bring you in-depth analysis on these important issues. All this and more is coming your way right here on Alex's News, so be sure to stay tuned. We begin this morning with deeply troubling news out of the Middle East. Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have once again led to significant loss of life. For more on this, we turn to our news reporter, Ethan. Ethan, what can you tell us about these latest developments?
Grace, the situation is indeed grim. According to the health ministry in Gaza, airstrikes yesterday, May 13th, resulted in at least 60 fatalities, tragically including 22 children. These are striking figures, painting a very somber picture.
60 dead, so many children. That's horrifying. Where specifically did these strikes occur, Ethan?
The Israeli military targeted locations in northern and southern Gaza, particularly around Jabalia and Khan Yunis. The Israeli military reportedly warned Jabalia residents to evacuate, citing Hamas infrastructure. The Jabalia refugee camp was then struck overnight following this order.
A refugee camp struck. That's distressing. You mentioned Khan Yunis. Was there a specific target there drawing significant attention?
Yes, a devastating strike hit the European hospital in Khan Yunis, where reports state 28 people were killed. The Israeli military asserts this targeted Hamas terrorists operating from a command and control center beneath the hospital, even releasing footage of alleged tunnels.
Beneath a hospital? A very serious allegation. What's Hamas's response, and how else has the Israeli military justified this?
Hamas denies any military presence there. The Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, stated they used precision munitions and aerial surveillance. They framed it as Hamas exploiting civilian infrastructure and targeting leaders like Mohammed Sinwar. It's a difficult situation with deadly consequences.
This didn't happen in a vacuum. What's the immediate backdrop?
These actions followed Hamas's release of an Israeli-American hostage, a deal reportedly U.S. brokered. They also came after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu affirmed Israel's offensive would continue until Hamas is defeated, regardless of hostage releases, indicating an escalation. So it seems the pressure is certainly mounting.
So even a hostage release didn't de-escalate things. And this offensive has been ongoing for a long time now.
That's right. This conflict phase began after Hamas-led militants attacked southern Israel in 2023, killing 1,200 people. The retaliatory Israeli offensive, Palestinian health officials say, has since killed over 52,800 Palestinians. The scale is immense.
Beyond direct casualties, what's the humanitarian situation for civilians in Gaza?
It's dire, Grace, worsened by an Israeli blockade. For 10 weeks, Israel has heavily restricted essential aid like food, shelter, and medicine. International food security experts warn Gaza is at risk of famine, with nearly 500,000 Palestinians facing possible starvation. It's a desperate cry for help from the region.
A risk of famine. How is the international community responding to this?
There's strong condemnation. French President Emmanuel Macron called Israel's blockade, quote, a disgrace, end quote, and a direct cause of the crisis. The UN has voiced serious alarm. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Tay, 1/4 RK, condemned actions amounting to collective punishment, warning that using starvation as warfare is a war crime. UNRWA Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini highlighted repeated strikes on shelters and the normalization of civilian suffering. The UN even warns of a looming risk of genocide.
Incredibly strong words. Regarding the European hospital strike, you mentioned the U.S. validated Israel's claim of a Hamas command center?
Yes, the U.S. publicly validated it. However, critically, as of today, May 14th, Israel hasn't presented new, independently verifiable evidence for this command center. Nor has the U.S. detailed its validating intelligence. This lack of transparency continues despite civilian deaths and calls for accountability. Israeli-released footage, for example, hasn't been independently verified. It's a tough story to piece together without that clear proof.
So, assertions, but a shortage of independently confirmed facts on that crucial claim. With all this escalating, are there any efforts to broker peace?
Efforts are ongoing. Egyptian mediators are reportedly trying to broker a ceasefire, but these talks haven't yielded a breakthrough yet. Hostilities, unfortunately, continue. It seems peace is still on a very long layover.
A truly heartbreaking situation all around. Ethan, thank you for that comprehensive update.
You're welcome, Grace.
We turn now to a significant challenge brewing in the Golden State. California's budget, once projected for a surplus, is now facing a considerable deficit. We have our news reporter Chloe with us to break down the numbers and what it all means. Chloe, this sounds like a fiscal roller coaster.
It certainly is, Grace. According to reports from almanacnews.com and Newsbreak, both citing CalMatters, California is unexpectedly grappling with a budget deficit estimated to be between $10 billion and $16 billion. Some projections even suggest it could exceed $20 billion. This is a stark turnaround from earlier, more optimistic forecasts.
That's a massive swing. What are the main culprits behind this sudden financial shortfall?
Governor Newsom and various news outlets point to two primary drivers. First, the economic repercussions of President Trump's tariffs. A CalMatters report from April 16th highlighted that these tariffs are harming consumers and businesses by disrupting supply chains and inflating costs, leading to billions in damages to California's economy.
So these tariffs are creating some terrific trouble for the state. Is California just accepting this?
Not at all. Newsbreak details that California, under Attorney General Rob Bonta and Governor Newsom, is actively challenging the president's authority to impose these tariffs. They've filed lawsuits arguing the tariffs are unlawful and causing economic chaos. CalMatters also noted on April 8th that the state's large pension funds have suffered from stock market sell-offs following tariff announcements.
A double whammy from trade policy then. What's the other major factor you mentioned?
That would be escalating healthcare expenditures. almanacnews.com reported, and Perplexity API analysis confirmed, a substantial $6 billion overrun in California's Medi-Cal program. For our viewers, Medi-Cal is California's Medicaid program, providing health coverage to millions of low-income individuals and families.
$6 billion is a hefty sum for one program. Any other healthcare-related pressures?
Yes, Newsbreak indicates that California is also experiencing a loss of billions in federal health grants due to actions taken by President Trump, adding further strain to the state's finances. It's a real calamity for the budget.
It sounds like external pressures are significant. But is there anything more to this story? Perhaps some underlying issues within the state's own finances?
That's a key point, Grace. A CalMatters report from May 8th, along with analysis from Perplexity API, points to a pre-existing, quote, structural deficit, end quote. This means that state spending has consistently outpaced revenue growth since Governor Newsom took office. The California Legislative Analyst's Office, cited by Perplexity API, corroborates this, highlighting that faster than normal spending growth has contributed to operating deficits.
So what exactly is a structural deficit for those who might not know?
Essentially, a structural deficit occurs when, even in normal economic times, a government's planned long-term spending is higher than its expected long-term revenues. It's not just a one-off bad year. It's a fundamental imbalance. The Hoover Institution, also referenced by Perplexity API, suggests that California's fiscal challenges are largely self-inflicted, stemming from high state spending and misallocated budget priorities. Previous reports mentioned by Perplexity API also pointed to costly healthcare expansions and what was termed, quote, lavish spending, end quote, in 2022 as factors that exacerbated a chronic budget deficit.
That paints a more complex picture. With Governor Newsom's revised budget proposal expected around today, May 14th, what's his plan to tackle this deficit?
According to Perplexity API, Governor Newsom is preparing to negotiate with the legislature with a multi-pronged approach. This includes drawing approximately $7.1 billion from the state's reserves, while aiming to maintain about $17 billion in those reserve accounts. There will also be targeted spending adjustments or slowed growth in areas like education, healthcare, including Medi-Cal, and environmental programs.
And what about bringing in more money? Any new taxes on the horizon?
The plan seems to rely more on revenue measures, such as increased tax credit caps, rather than introducing major new taxes. For instance, Perplexity API mentioned a Cal Matters report from May 5th about protecting the entertainment industry through such credits. The governor is also proposing changes to the state's reserve policies, including allowing the rainy day fund to grow to 20% of general fund revenues, up from the current 10%, and exempting these deposits from the state's constitutional spending cap, known as the GAN limit. That limit essentially restricts how much the state can spend each year based on population and inflation.
Drawing from reserves and adjusting spending seems like a short-term fix. Does this May revise, as analyzed by Perplexity API, offer any significant long-term solutions to that structural deficit you mentioned?
The analysis indicates a lack of significant long-term fiscal reforms or structural spending changes. The current strategy appears focused on managing the immediate shortfall through those reserve draws, one-time cuts, and cautious revenue projections, rather than fundamentally altering the trajectory of state spending relative to revenue. Lawmakers have reportedly expressed concerns about the uncertainty of the deficit figures and the insufficient clarity to enact deeper, more structural reforms at this stage.
It sounds like they're trying to navigate a very foggy fiscal path. Are there other factors making this situation even more challenging for California?
Yes, unfortunately. Newsbreak and almanacnews.com have reported on the financial impact of recent fires, which has led to delayed tax submissions from victims, further squeezing revenue. Almanacnews.com also mentions the looming threat of potential federal spending cuts, which could worsen the situation. It's like the state budget is getting burned at both ends.
With all these pressures, what could this mean for everyday Californians? Are we looking at potential cuts to essential services?
That's a major concern. Cal Matters reported on April 22nd that proposed state cuts might halt the University of California's enrollment growth of in-state students. Similarly, a Cal Matters report from April 7th warned that potential Medicaid cuts could undermine recent improvements in mental health care and addiction treatment. And given California's relatively high unemployment and poverty rates compared to other states, as mentioned by Cal Matters on May 8th, these budget limitations could put even more strain on vulnerable populations.
This is certainly a complex and concerning fiscal picture for California. It seems the Golden State's finances are facing some serious headwinds. Thank you, Chloe, for that comprehensive update and for making those complex details a bit clearer for us.
You're welcome, Grace. It's definitely a situation to watch closely.
Here are some other headlines. In Omaha, Nebraska, a significant political shift is underway. Incumbent Mayor Jean Stothert, the city's first female mayor, has conceded to challenger John Ewing, who is now poised to become Omaha's first black mayor. Early returns showed Stothert trailing by nearly 5,000 votes. The campaign covered local issues like street repairs and national topics. In her concession, Stothert congratulated Ewing, noting he inherits a strong city with ongoing projects. Turning to Virginia politics, the state's Republican Party reportedly embraced a diverse ticket for the 2025 elections to broaden its appeal, but this strategy then faced unspecified complications. Such challenges can involve internal disagreements or messaging difficulties as the party navigates Virginia's evolving demographics in a key battleground state. In a legal development, the family of a 2-year-old U.S. citizen, deported to Honduras with her non-citizen mother and sister, has dropped their lawsuit against the Trump administration. The child, born in Louisiana, was deported from New Orleans despite her father informing ICE of her citizenship. A federal judge had expressed concern over due process. while government officials claimed the mother chose to take the child. The family dismissed the suit to prioritize the children's well-being. Meanwhile, a new AP NORC poll reveals deep pessimism among Democrats about their party's future. Only about one-third are optimistic, a sharp drop from July 2024, following the party's loss of the White House and Congress. The poll also showed mixed reviews for some Democratic leaders and concerns about leadership selection. Republicans are slightly more optimistic about their party, though neither party is viewed favorably by a majority of U.S. adults. And in Iowa, Pete Buttigieg delivered a forceful anti-Trump message at a VoteVets town hall in Cedar Rapids. He emphasized that Democrats need a clear agenda beyond just opposition, criticizing Trump-era policies, especially cuts harming veterans. Buttigieg, a Navy Reserve veteran, stressed the party's message must be clear about its goals and resist, quote, authoritarian tendencies. He also urged voters to support constructive governance plans. And that's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 3.7, Gemini Pro 2.5 Experimental, Gemini Flash 2.0, Perplexity Sonar Pro, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.